Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning. It is a beautiful sunny morning here in the Puget Sound. My name is Danielle Lord, and I am coming to you from the USA Global TV and Radio show, hoping to bring a compassion evolution. So welcome to the Compassion Project, which is the name of our show, and I am your host and hopefully purveyor of compassion, kindness, and empathy. I am joined with my guest today, MICHON GAREMANI, who we'll introduce in just a few minutes. But before we turn it over to MICHON to hear about her, I want to talk a little bit about what I do in the field of organizational development. So in this work, I have spent my 32-year career. I almost hate to say that, but you can tell by these great lines right here that 32 years working in this field has been very enriching. I have done work at the corporate level with change management, adult and organizational learning, employee engagement, and leadership development. I actually have a Ph.D. in leadership theory, which has led me to this place of really helping organizations, leaders, and employees have a more enriching experience and reducing pain that sometimes comes in the world of corporate organizations, even small businesses. So if you have ever gotten to work in the morning and you've felt that headache or felt nauseated or just felt that immense tension in your shoulders, you have experienced the pain and frustration that sometimes comes from a toxic working environment. So my goal really is to help reduce that pain and make sure that employees everywhere can have a better experience. So that has led me to my guest, MICHON. MICHON and I we met, about a year ago, perhaps, and we immediately had this deep connection around this idea of trauma and how we can both eradicate trauma with this kind of global vision of reducing trauma and really bringing compassion into the conversation. So at this point, I'd like to introduce MICHON. And MICHON, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do. And I think there's a fascinating intersection between our work that we do together. Me wanting to bring and reduce trauma in the organization and bring compassion as part of the conversations that we have as work intersects, I think, so beautifully with the work that you are doing. So talk a little bit about that and tell us who you are.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you requesting my presence today to share this platform. It's an exciting arena to be working in, to understand that the human experience involves such a variety of experience, but one that is formidable for us, for people, workers, community, family, is that anywhere we experience life in the world, we can experience threat. And that can be viewed then as a traumatic experience upon the body and upon the mind, and has incredible consequences. And in the workforce and in the workplace, this is quite pervasive. Perhaps structures of infrastructure are not in place to support staff, to support each other as colleagues. So Danielle and I are aligning in our force to bring an awareness, bring a greatened awareness to this idea that we are all having a human experience collectively, and to not shy from the fact that we can support one another. And so Danielle and I are working together to bring forth a positive message of both hope and healing. And in the work I do as a trauma recovery coach and specialist is to really work with the individual to help them be able to assess where they are in their journey of healing and recovery, and to then take and integrate new tools and strategies for their improvement, which then they integrate into families, which then they integrate to their work. And beyond that, then we influence communities. And so this is the personal objective I have, is to change one heart and life at a time, which then can transmit into those bigger community overhauls. We are interested in disrupting a shame-based thought process on trauma. And Danielle and I are aligned to overcome that and to fight for a collective knowing that we are all in this experience together.
Oh, yeah, so beautifully. You say so things so much more profoundly than I do. But I want to highlight, you talked about changing one heart at a time. And I think that that's why this has to be a compassion evolution, right? I think
Yes.
we want to think about it in terms of a revolution where we can get mass collective consciousness around this idea of compassion in the workplace and in our communities. But I think we have to start with one person at a time in order for it to really grab hold. And of course, that always begins with us as individuals, owning our own compassion, owning our self-compassion, and owning our own happiness. So I think you highlighted that intersection that we find together. We oftentimes experience trauma in the workplace through dysfunctional culture, through toxic leadership. And we bring that trauma, that distress home into our families, to our spouses, to our kids. Our spouses and our kids take it out into the community, and suddenly we have this sea of apathy and frustration and anger and angst. And I think that we are collectively beginning to experience that. I was with a group a couple of days ago, and it just posed the question, how many of you are experiencing these things? You know, road rage, or, I see you have your signal on and you want to merge. I'm going to speed up so you can't get in. Vitriolic responses. I think it's all around us at this point, and it's really time to grab hold of that. Recognize that it's out there, what's causing it, and how we can collectively overcome this. So I think that's why the Compassion Project is such an important topic and very timely.
Right. And to speak to that, Danielle, is to say that we actually have a cultural language adaptation now. And I regret that it even exists in our culture, that we have the word road rage, that's a thing. We've added that to our dialect. Really? Okay. Road rage. And now we have the word Karen, and I am deeply troubled by the use of the word Karen, or the male version is Kevin. I'm deeply troubled by this, because this is definitely a display of no compassion toward those that are having a real life experience of threat or disruption to what they feel is safe. And to label it, to belittle it, to shame it, and to actually overtly call attention to look at they're crazy. I have a problem with this. We need to not normalize the energy as faulty or bad. We need to normalize the experience that people have boundaries. People would like respect. People would like compassion and courtesy. And I'd like us to normalize that, not these other factors of our language and the realities that those describe. So,
not to mention all the poor individuals who are named Karen and Kevin, and what they must be experiencing through that label. But I want to address this idea of words. I was, again, chatting with a group the other day, and talking about the words of business. We have words like, we need a bullet point around that. Or how are we going to execute this strategy? We need to be sitting on the razor's edge. Let's put a stake in that. I mean, even the words that we use in business can sometimes be traumatic. And I think the words alone, if we weren't experiencing so much of trauma all around us, this assault on our senses, we might be able to overcome the use of those words. But with so many other things that are coming at us in this kind of insidious nature, even the words then can become this kind of compounding effect. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I definitely believe that our thoughts are things, and those words are part of what begins our thinking. They're part of our thinking, and all things we have around us, everywhere we look, all thought is the precursor for anything that we see or have or manifested. If tangible products are first, or as have an origin of a thought. And so if we are not careful with this, our mind to be utilizing more of a careful language, and it's not about censorship. I want to be cautious here. It's not censorship. It's about compassion, and starting here. Right? The compassion idea starts here. Like, I am going to love myself and use language and thought that creates the life I actually desire. But how many of us sit around and really plan our course of our life? Do you know that most people do plan a college career that lasts, however many years? They do plan how they're going to execute further training in their career. They do plan how to strategize for buying homes and boats and whatever else they want. But do they strategize their thinking? Like, do we actually strategize the way we are building our thoughts to create this person that I am? That person that I am goes into the workforce. That person that I am communicates with my children. How important it is that we back up and really believe and solidify our thinking and making that, I'm going to say, holistic thinking. Right?
I like that holistic thinking, because it does take into account that we have to consider the whole body, mind, spirit component. Yeah. And I think sometimes that's often overlooked. And I think in terms of trauma, and I want to dive into this definition a little bit, and you and I have slightly different definitions around trauma, and that's good. That's okay, because I think the more exposure we can bring to this, the better. But we often don't think about the mental or emotional assault that we have as being traumatic, right? We tend to think of trauma as being a big, large, impactful watershed event, like the house burnt down, or we were the sole survivors of a multi-car collision, or whatever the case may be, right? We tend to think of it as being very physical, but in fact, it can actually be an assault on our senses. And I think that's what a lot of us are experiencing right now.
Yes.
So would you share your definition of trauma, the definition that you use to inform your work?
Yeah. So there, like you said, there's several ways that this can be defined. And I just will say that the trauma experience, when I say I have a trauma experience, it's incredibly personal. I never am intending to describe yours. I'm describing mine. And therefore, I will try and keep a lens that my experience isn't your experience, right? So that's the compassion piece already demonstrated there. So the use of trauma that I use with my clientele and in my practice is to utilize this idea that trauma isn't necessarily the event. It's the way our mind, our body interprets this event and the experience. It's a felt experience into our body, and it becomes a living reality. So although there's a classic idea that a car accident, whatnot, that's the tragic, that's the the trauma. Yes and no, because I can be a passenger in the same car as you, and I will have an incredibly different experience. I may not use the language of trauma. And so therefore it becomes the felt experience for me. And that is in registering with my other background, my other experiences. So I take this new experience and it's integrated into my own experience, which is deeply personal. And it becomes then a trauma experience, if that is the conclusion, right? It's an assessment of this now embodied with all of the others. And believe it or not, this happens really quickly in the mind. It's almost not even a conscious thinking. But we use the language of trauma. I think we have an overuse of just the term trauma in our world when it's not. What we're really describing is a situation that we just dislike, and maybe heavily dislike. So trauma is very interesting. We need to be mindful of and respectful of people's use of it, but to also maybe be a little more investigative about really what is the field of science revealing about what trauma really is. Yeah. And looking at the science behind that a little bit more. Yeah.
Oh, you said so many interesting things that I want to unpack, and I probably won't get to all of them. But yeah, I think that the most important thing to understand is that we are all unique individuals, and we cannot make a comparative experience. My trauma is not going to be the same as yours. And I think that that is something that we have to really respect. I think the other piece to that is we are just learning about the mind-body connection. I think in healthcare, I think it's still a really uncharted territory in kind of the allopathic prescribed healthcare system that we have. But the mind works miraculously much faster, I think, than anyone gives it credit for. And there have been research studies that have said we as humans can anticipate events before they happen because we have that intuitive ability to pick up on those things. So to say that what we're experiencing through the trauma happens much more quickly than the body responds to, I think is so accurate and yet to be discovered. But I just want to share quickly. So I think you said that, if I heard you correctly, we are overusing the term trauma. And I think we've underutilized the term trauma because maybe that's my background in healthcare. So 25 years in healthcare, I think we tend to view trauma in that bigger lens. But so the definition that I've been using and incorporates, now it's going to be completely out of my mind, but these interpersonal assaults that we're experiencing, just through the toxic culture or the poor leadership, and also something that is repeated and prolonged. That's what I was trying to go after. And I think that's that assault on our senses that is the repeated and prolonged part. And so shedding some light on this and having a conversation about it, I think, is the very first part of this approach of creating this compassion evolution. But I just want to throw out a couple of examples of what I mean by repeated and prolonged. So in the workplace, for example, just walking into a meeting, I had this experience and this reminder the other day that you walk into a meeting and what does everyone do? They go and they find their spot around the table and they do one of two things. They pull out their phone, or they pull out, they fish around in their briefcase and they pull out a file folder and start to work, or at least pretend that they're working on something, right? So you have this sea of bodies sitting around this table and no one's interacting. Right? How is that not an assault to our emotional sense of we as humans need to be in relationship with one another? Yes. So even our meetings, we have that repeated and prolonged sense of kind of these little tiny things that are tiny hostilities that are coming at us at all the time. This was interesting. I just recently learned about this. So I'm going to set the stage here for a minute. Think about all those beautiful buildings pre-World War II in Europe, and even in our older cities here in the United States. We had these architectural masterpieces with beautiful scroll work and these facades that were very, very lovely. After World War II, we started building these concrete monoliths that were really just these flat concrete structures with some windows, no detail. They were really very ugly to look at. And personal experience around this, I lived in the Soviet Union when it was still the Soviet Union and lived in one of those buildings. And it was truly kind of a sensory assault to come back to this. Oh, there it is. It's just big gray nothingness. But here's what's interesting. That style of architecture has a name, and it is actually called brutalism.
Really? You're sharing something I am not familiar with. How about that? That's
brutalism is the name of the architecture, and it is literally designed to be that just blah. And so how is that not a repeated and prolonged assault, a traumatic assault on our senses?
And certainly a formidable, permanent cultural fixture.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, in the world of architecture, then it's a perpetuated statement that, we say this brutalism when we're referring to this. Well, that's very interesting, right? And our language is definitely demonstrates the mindset that we carry. And so we're seeing that, I guess, in architecture, it's showing that, but even in the work culture, you pointed out, the razor's edge or the bullet points, those kinds of phrases that we make use of in industry. And I'm sure there's more that we're not mentioning here. But you also, Danielle, you mentioned something that when people like this meeting, you were visiting and noticing people pretending to work. What this links to for me is this idea of, in the science world, we have this definition of connection. Really, it's called the social engagement system. And the social engagement system is our thriving system. And when we disconnect from this, we've disconnected from what I would consider our most core innate drive, and that is connection. And if I may just speak a little to that, we, as I have developed a greater understanding of human biology and anatomy, as I've learned and studied over the years, I've attributed this into my own personal life. So I birthed a baby, and one of the first and formidable things that the nurses will do in that setting right after birth is bring this baby to breast or to bare chestedness, right? We see this with fathers as well as the mothers. But this is part of that social engagement system. This is part of that connection that we really are looking for, this close proximity, a tenderness through speech. I mean, if you listen to usually women, but men do this too. You listen to the way women speak to babies or even small animals, our voice heightens, right? We grow, we actually morph into this connection with our infants and our animals, and the voice elevates, our contact is sincere, we shift. And over time, we lose this, right? I don't talk to my colleagues at work in this tone, or right?
Yeah, I never thought about it.
Interesting enough, but it's almost innate. If you watch, we don't coach anybody to do those sort of behaviors, but this is innate because it's part of the social engagement system where we want connection and we want people close, and skin to skin contact has shown incredible research on that as its effectiveness for bonding. And bonding is not just a physical presence, but a release of chemical in the brain for connection. And so we're hardwired for it. We're hardwired for this connection. And then we go into work where the boss is standoffish. Our colleagues are like, stone-walled, right? Like
I'd rather pretend to be working than engage with you.
We have to put on facades because I'm the intellect here, and I'm the professional. And we have lost some touch to our humanity. And I really mean the human element in me that shows up to work because I just had a fight with my kid in the car, dropping him off at school. But that has to stay over there. And we have that phrase, leave home at home and work at work, right?
Yes.
And, at home, be present, at work, be present. But I don't know about you. I'm a mixture. Like I understand professional work that needs to be supported, and I need to bring my A game. And I understand those philosophies, but to separate me from an experience, it's not possible. I am all of those experiences, and they go with me wherever I am.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the worst thing that's ever been said in organizations. And I can think of a lot is, I don't care. Leave it behind. Check it when you come to the door.
Check it at the door, right? We have these phrases. So it's just an incredible, we need to become more aware that there are this language base that we have and utilize that draws disconnection and segregation even. Right. And there's a lot of stereotypes embedded in our language. There's a lot of biases that we need to be aware of. But the last time I checked, I'm a human being, and so are you. And that I want to just, boil it down to the basics of basics. That's what we're having. We're having a human experience. And if I can say one other thing on that is that I have never encountered this day ever in my life before. I've never encountered, perhaps I go to work and I'm having a troubled client interaction or a client coworker interaction. I've never been MICHON at this age, on this date, having this before. So please offer me a little bit of grace as I'm learning this experience, this exact moment. Yes, I want to bring the best of myself to the situation, but we aren't always at our best. Again, that compassionate outlook to say, I see you're having a human experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And show some grace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of grace. Yeah. A lot of
And
grace.
those, those are real things that happen in our
Yep.
world, right? We end up a near miss coming to work. We're rattled. There's a fight that
Yes.
happens. There's the phone call that you get. There's the realization that, oh my gosh, someone took $2,000 out of my bank account and the mortgage payment is due. I mean, all of those things
Real life.
get us into the shadow side of ourselves, of who we are. That isn't necessarily always our best, but
may I draw attention to that? It's not a flaw. It's not a flaw. It's the human experience. And it's easy to demean that someone is rattled and then we want to say, oh, you're acting like a Karen. What? Why? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? I don't think that's fair. I certainly don't want to ever be called a Karen. I have been called a Karen, and I actually second guess, like, what are you referring to? Okay. Whatever. Okay. I'll do my best. I mean, but isn't that what we're trying? I will say, there's a statement here that is that we're just having a human experience. And a lot of us are trying our best. We are trying our best to pull it together. We are.
Yeah. Yeah. I would second that. I think we are all trying our best without the realization of these other kind of assaults that are constantly coming at us. And so I think that's why it's so important to call it out, to begin to notice it and to say it's not all in your mind. You really are experiencing this. And so what are we going to do now to take care of ourselves so that we can overcome it and create this heart space and this compassion evolution? So in our remaining few minutes here, MICHON, what is one thing that you would like to leave our audience with today?
One thing?
Well, okay. one small step for that evolution.
Thank you. The one small step in this evolution is, and we use this word a lot in our modern world right now, and there's this word mindset, or our mind capacity, or our mind view. And the mindset is an interesting thing because it really is where the start of all things are generated. We have a mind that cultivates a thought and the thinking and the process of, and we need to be cognitive of what is running the script in our mind. Are we having behaviors that old programming behaviors? And most of us do, and that's okay. Again, we're having a human experience. But to leave us with a solution or an approach toward a solution, okay? An approach toward a solution is to remember and believe that I am still a work in progress. This is a mental belief, right? I am still a work in progress. Can you please afford me grace as I journey here? This is an experience I'm journeying in. And as the compassion that we're interested in delivering is not just to myself, which is why I make that statement. Please believe, I believe, and I still can recognize I'm a work in progress, and I see the same for you. And so that may really agitate some people. They're like, no, I've got my life figured out. Or I'm secure in this. But like I said, I've never been on July 19th in this experience before ever in my life, having this dialogue. So I'm always experiencing life sort of fresh. And that actually is really, really encouraging. I really love that. We're having a new, fresh experience. It can be creative. It can be innovative, but I'm the designer. So let us remember I'm still a work in progress. Let's work on remembering that I am not always just pre-programmed material that just gets acted upon. I can be the actor. I can be the creator. And that will allow us to grow our capacities and our capability and our human awareness and that compassion that we need to deliver to people. Yep. And just err on compassion. Last time I checked, no one is hating me because I overextend love and compassion. It can feel annoying, I think, to some people because they're like, why are you so nice? Or whatever that response could be, but
yeah, for sure. I think
the world I don't think we're making the world a worse place by extending more grace and compassion. I can't believe that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Unless it's that toxic positivity, right? But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, right.
But
Authentic.
yeah, authentic for sure. What you reminded me of is this, and I hadn't heard this before, but this imposter syndrome that is kind of out there, and people are talking about this idea of, well, you're just an imposter. But it made me, I thought about it when you said, well, some people like to show up in this air of, I have my life entirely scripted and I'm in control at all times. And I think that that's what that's really getting to, is that no, actually you don't. You might think that you do, and then how much disharmony are you or dis-ease even are you creating within your own body by trying to hold on to that much control? So
yes, and that brings me to one particular thought, that I think as we age, we lose curiosity, and I think that's just a personal injustice to ourselves. We lose curiosity. Look at our children. Our children are incredibly curious. This is why we have to set, a healthy measure of boundaries. But we lose curiosity. And I feel like there's a lot of discovery still to be had as an individual, as I experience this life and world, as I meet new people, as I integrate into new arenas. Let's just be curious instead of judgy. Even judgy toward myself. Can I just be curious about why did I react that way? Can I just be curious? Let's regrow some curiosity and lean into that space of compassion. It's compassion to myself, right? I can be curious and explorative. Why did that hurt so bad when that event took place? Or what you said, really was a dagger to me, that language, right? Why did that hurt so bad? But let's get curious. We need a curiosity culture instead of a judging culture.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. And I think that that relates back to the self-compassion that you were talking about, rather than saying, oh, why did I behave that way? It's, what was it that caused me to have that particular response? It's very similar, but different. You might argue that it's splitting hairs, but it's coming at it in the vein of curiosity rather than judgmental. So, go ahead. No, please.
No, just to be this curiousness is to cultivate also, and to give permission for other people to get it wrong. And get it wrong, that sounds also judgy, doesn't it? But I hear that, but that's why I call it out. It's not to get it wrong in my view, it's to get it wrong because I'm just trying and I'm experimenting. Can I please have that room? I'm having a human experience. And it's full of trial and error. We have that language, trial and error. I'm just trying. I am trying. I think often too, and I personally have experienced this, where some people say, you've had enough chances. You should have known this by now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh.
We get that in our work culture. You should have known this by now. There's no more room for you to be learning this. It needs to have been learned, and then not learned, demonstrated, executed, whatever it be. But, again, we're having a learning it's a learning curve. It's a learning experience. We're getting curious. I can only imagine what our work culture could truly look like if we have top-down management authority embracing curiosity and the learning curve, embracing that. Our culture would be incredibly different.
So much of my work has been in that whole area of organizational learning. And it just because you attended a training class and you were a bum in a seat doesn't mean that you got it in the moment. There's so many other factors that are coming at you. That near miss car accident, how does that interfere with your ability to take in, process, and act on new information in the moment? So
yes. And safety. Safety is a big factor. That psychological safety, which yields a physical safety. Are you even approachable? Because psychologically, my boss, not approachable. It's been demonstrated time and time again. My boss isn't approachable. So there's no psychological safety there. Yeah.
That's why I hate the saying, we have an open door policy. Listen. It can be very meaningless in and of itself. So, and
I'm sure you've had some experience with seeing that in action. Yeah.
Many times. So, Michon always brings such a depth and richness to the conversation, because when we chatted previously about one thing that you can do, Michon opened up this whole new world. And I was like, wow, I was going to tell everyone to watch a cat video. Cats are pretty funny, right? But you brought so much much more to the conversation. And I don't mean to belittle it and make fun of it, but I do think that laughter is a huge part of self-care.
Yes.
And so if we can find the opportunities at home or even at work, imagine how infectious it might be to have a whole bunch of folks standing around your computer watching cat videos with you or laughing babies. And
providing an outlet that allows us to reset, refresh. And by the way, if we did that, we would be engaging in that social engagement system.
Exactly.
That brings us together in collaboration, in community, because this is a heart space we're talking about. It's do I even feel like I can be myself here? Right. And trauma.
Oh, yeah. The authenticity piece is a whole different conversation.
Right. And we feel misunderstood. We often feel misunderstood. Sometimes we even misunderstand, like, again, do I even understand myself? But if I'm being asked to facilitate a learning group or something, and I'm not in the capacity to do so, I would hope that my work culture can allow me to be expressive and maybe allow me to step in when I actually am the most effective. Give me room to have a human experience, to not just be where I am, but to prepare for these other parts that I do need to facilitate. I do need to step into this role at my job. I need room to grow into that and staying curious about that.
Staying curious. Yeah, that's fantastic. As we close out, I just want to share a story that came up. So I'm doing some facilitation with a large city around their experiences of coming into the organization. And one of the questions was, what city events have brought you joy or made you feel more connected to the organization as the city, as the employer? And one of the responses was, we had a kiddie hall. And so City Hall, right, is what we think of with the large city. They had Kitty Hall, where they all brought their cats in for the day. And it was just this joy that came about as everyone bringing their cats into the organization. Yep. So.
and how simple, look at how simple that is to change the heartbeat of that community in that moment. And that, your work colleagues are your community. How simple it is to change the heartbeat there and to grow connection and to lean into the space where we can all actually agree that this is an experience of joy, and how much more we actually benefit when we are in that element, because we are experiencing safety in that space, and we can be our most effective and very thriving in that sense of safety.
And our most authentic self. Yes. Wow, MICHON, it's always a great conversation. I think the first time MICHON and I scheduled an hour together, it was 3 hours. But because every conversation is like this. Where can people find you, MICHON? How can they reach out to you and say, wow, I need MICHON in my life?
Yes, so I operate Rooted to Rise Coaching. So I'm a certified trauma recovery coach and a certified hypnotherapist in the state of Washington. So my business is Rooted to Rise with the number 2. And I authentically love people. I love human beings. I think we are very incredible and good-natured individuals. And we have human experiences that sometimes shadow that and create shadows over that. But I am here to help and serve in a community that is desperately needing a new identity. And it starts at that individual level. So Rooted to Rise Coaching is how you can find me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being my first guest on the show, The Compassion Project, where we are hoping to start a compassion evolution. So I'll be back August 16th and hopefully have lots more of MICHON and other great guests on the platform here at USA Global TV and Radio. And for now, I'd like to turn it over to our sponsors and thank them very much for their support. Thank you and see you next time.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence. Building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting the Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the secrets of visual impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, Elegance in Eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, Unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, Mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette, building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they're instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you. 5 little-known secrets for dementia caregivers with Tracy Cram-Perkins.
Hi there, I am Tracy Cram-Perkins, the host of the Dementia Home Care Show here on USA Global TV and Radio. I am also the author of the book of the same name. And you'll see this QR code. This is for an extended version of the same talk. So if you want to see the full hour-long version, feel free to scan the code and go to that website. Stick with me. We'll talk about 5 little-known secrets to make it a little easier to do dementia caregiving. What you're seeing on the left-hand side is a healthy aged brain, age 55 and above. The one you're seeing on the right is an Alzheimer's disease brain. It is in moderate disease. It is shrinking. It has holes in it. The memories that were in those holes no longer exist. When you're learning something, let's say in kindergarten, you learn how to tie your shoelace. Well, then by the time you're in 2nd grade, your brain remembers that information from tying the shoelace and applies it so you can learn more quickly how to tie more complex knots. So the brain is hardwired to do this for us. So it helps us learn faster so it doesn't take us long to acquire knowledge. The brain is looking for the information and they pick the closest to wherever that hole is. Let's look at some tips that we can use to help do that.
These are 5 simple tools you can use as a dementia caregiver to help your loved one. The whiteboard is a useful tool in recording the day's activities and the answers to repetitive questions. The calendar clock is a very useful tool to orient your loved one on the day, the date, and the time, and remind them of upcoming appointments. The communication cards are a great tool to bridge the gap when they can no longer tell you what's wrong. And then there's the pill minder for when your loved one is still able to take pills but needs prompting. The final tool I want to share with you is the memory book. It tells your loved one's story. It's a great tool for distraction, redirection, also as a conversation starter, and telling you where they are in their story so you know how to answer their questions.
Music is probably the most powerful tool in your toolbox after laughter. Music is a way to maintain connection. It sticks with your brain longer than any other thing, including reading. When you're having an issue with somebody, you can play their favorite music if you move them to another room, something that makes them happy, or you can start singing songs together from their childhood. These are some of my favorite books for caregivers. My show airs on the 3rd Tuesday of every month, and you can view past episodes on YouTube. Thank you, everyone.
This program has been brought to you in part by Tracy Cram-Perkins. Connect with her and order her book at tracycramperkins.com. For more information about Alzheimer's disease, support resources, and how you can help, contact the Alzheimer's Association at 1-800-272-3900 or visit their website at www.alz.org. They offer 24/7 helpline support and a wealth of information to assist you and your loved ones.
Hello, I'm children's author Diane Floyd Bain, and I am co-host for several of the USA Global TV and radio shows. I joined because of the purpose of the USA Global TV and radio. They provide content for the viewers and listeners, an opportunity for people around the world to have their own show or even be a guest on an existing show. We truly believe in helping others get their positive message out to the world. We also have the opportunity for the listeners. You can watch on several platforms, and on YouTube, you can ask questions and even give a comment. We absolutely love it. I love being part of the USA Global TV and radio because I love positive messages, and who doesn't? And we need more of that in the world. We are a family, and we hope you will join us and become part of the family too.
This program has been brought to you in part by Zane Carson Carruth, etiquette and protocol expert, international award-winning author, television show host, and philanthropist. Thank you to Zane, our official diamond sponsor for USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. Zane is the author of The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever, as well as many other children's books. She's also the television host of Elegance, Polished Demeanor, and Posh Living, seen on USA Global TV and Radio.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Abella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book Abella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Abella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
To learn more about Zane, contact her through her website, zanecarruth.com, ZANECARRUTH.com. Order Zane's books and merchandise. Contact her about being a keynote speaker at your next event.